All right. Hey everyone, it's Yoash here, and I'm excited to share something with you guys today. Yesterday, as part of the ACS graduate program with Steve Chandler, we talked about systems versus dreams. And this is really interesting because I've actually been coaching a few clients on this week. And as part of my system of integration and mastery, I love sharing and teaching what I learn. And here's the thing, right? And I'm gonna talk about three, four things, right? And if you implement this, it's gonna take your coaching, your consulting to a whole different level. And you can, of course, implement this number one in your own life, which is really important, and then you can do this with your clients. My bold promise, right, is that if you do this, your impact will double. Your impact, like the difference that you're making for clients. And guess what? As a result of that, you're gonna get more renewals and you're gonna get more referrals. And if you put this into practice properly, it will help you, right? It will help you become like a machine. You can achieve any goal you set out, right? You want to make 250,000 in the next year, you can achieve that with this idea, with this principle, right? Whatever your goal is, whether it's 100,000 for the next year, 250,000. You know, some of you that are watching this, you have even bigger goals, right? Cool. And what I would like to do is start with a really quick exercise, right? And by the way, if you're watching this on the replay or you listen to this, you know, hashtag replay, and love to connect with you and just see where you're watching it from. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Second, let's dive into this exercise, right? Number one, I want you to get a distinction: systems versus dreams. We all have dreams, right? And it's important to dream and dream big. Now, here's the thing: a dream is like a wish, it's like an intention, right? And nothing really happens when we just dream. We want to, let me actually clarify what I think about the word dream. It's like a goal that's unrealized, a goal that's unrealized. So here's what we want to do. We want to create a system to achieve that, right? We want to turn that dream into a project, and then we want to create a system to get results, right? So when we do that, there's a few things that we need to think about. Number one, right? And number one is, you know, we want to create a system for and focus on the process, right? This is so important. So important to understand that, look, we set targets, we set goals, and then, you know, we don't focus too much on that. Why not? Because simply it's not in our control, right? We want to get, you know, really obsessed with the process. We want to get really good at the process. When you get good at the process, you can achieve anything you want, right? You know, so as an example, if you want to be a great, you know, husband, right? You can set that intention, you can set that as a goal, but you need to focus on the process. You want to have a great marriage, the same thing, right? If you want to have a business that turns over 10,000 a month every month, or 50,000 a month every month, right? You need to understand the process. So that's really important, right? We create a system to achieve a goal, right? But we focus on the process. And for those of you that are familiar with my work, we also focus on creating that identity, but we're not going to talk about that today, right? We want to be process driven and identity driven. So here's a quick exercise just to really make this useful and make this practical, right? And I highly recommend to listen to this again, because listening to it once, you get the information and you can already create some breakthroughs in your thinking and how you do things, right? But it's really listening twice that takes this learning deeper, and you create transformation. And better, that's also another system, right? If your system for learning is that you just read one book and then you go to the next one, that's your system, right? But I want also everyone to really get that is that we always have a system for the results that we get. So if you look at your life right now, you look at your business, for example, and you're making a certain amount of income, it's perfect to the system that you have. Maybe you haven't even created that system intentionally or consciously. And what we want to do, right? We want to create these systems consciously, right? So yeah, let's do a quick exercise. Number one, I want you guys to think about 2 things that you want to achieve and share that in the chat. For example, it could be that you know you want to write a best-selling book, right? It could be that you have a certain income goal, right? So the income goal could be to create 1 million next year. It could be to create 250,000. What are 2 goals that you have that are unrealized, that you haven't achieved yet? So write it down. And then there's 2 questions. Number one, question 1 is, what is your system for achieving that goal? If you don't have a system, just write down, I don't have a system. If you have a system, just write, this is my system, right? Right, and I'll give you guys a few examples. And here's the thing, this is really useful for coaches and consultants, right? This is really useful because what we do is we often take things personal, and then we feel shame, and then we feel like depressed, our self-esteem lowers, right? And that's not useful. So for example, we did a training yesterday for one of our groups, our accelerator group, training on finances and, keeping track of your finances. And at the end, few of our clients felt really down. And I get it because I've been like that, right? For a long time, I wasn't tracking my finances properly. And when I started tracking it, I was making a lot of mistakes. In fact, like we made some big mistakes last year. We lost around 100,000 just because of those mistakes. And it's very easy to think, what's wrong with me? And we don't really want to do that because that doesn't serve us, right? Sometimes it is useful to coach at the level of being, who are we being, why is it happening, right? And sometimes what's just more useful is to look at the system we have, right? So if you don't have a lot of money in your account right now, there's a system that's creating that, right? So remember, like whatever results you're getting, you have a perfect system for that. If you want different results, we need to change the system. An example, right? If you're coaching someone that's late all the time, right? Now you can talk about this with a client and really think about like, hey, what's happening? Why are you late? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? And sometimes, even just the client probably will think like, what's wrong with me? Right? Why is this always happening? And we don't need to go there. We can also just slow down and look at the system and ask like, what is your system for getting on time? Maybe they haven't even thought about that, right? So that simple question, right, can help us move away from the personal part and really think about like, hey, what am I doing? What is my thinking behind getting this result? And we can do the same in business, right? If if you want to consistently earn 10,000 a month, you need to have a system in place for that, right? And you need a process that you can control. Let me know if that makes sense. Another example, if you want to have 5 clients paying you 25,000 each, right? If you want the result, which is the 5 clients paying you 25,000 each, you need to have a system in place. And that system could be that, okay, I'm going to connect with so-and-so, right? I'm going to connect with 5 people every day. I'm going to make, for example, 25 proposals at 25K. That's in your control. How many people you connect with and invite and coach, right? And how many proposals you make, that's in your control. And how well you do it is also in your control, right? Also remember, like we're not just creating a system and then hoping and wishing that it creates the results we want. We monitor the system, we review it, right? We slow down and maybe we bring it to our coach, right? And we look at it and like, why is it not giving me the results? Or if it is giving results, think about what's going well. What can I improve? What can I do different? And we're constantly optimizing the system, right? and what's really important to understand, right? Like a system is a tool for achievement. Once you understand this, it can be a really powerful tool for you to use with clients. And of course, you know, use it on yourself, use it on your business, right? This will literally help you. This will make you so efficient, right? Because it's very easy to just think like, hey, you know what? This was a bad month, or, I didn't make much money and feel bad, like, oh, I don't know why I didn't, right? Like, what's wrong with me? And we kind of shame ourselves when we take ourselves on this journey that we don't actually need to go on, right? What we want to just do is look at the system that we have. So yeah, let me know like what's your takeaway so far from this. Um, so the key thing is like, just to summarize, like when working on a system, we don't take things personal, right? We just look at like what we can improve on the actual system, right? Um, and in general, like clients, including me in the past, like we like to make it personal. We think like we focus on our identity, like what's wrong with me. And by the way, like that is another topic on itself. Like sometimes it can be very powerful to coach someone on their identity. Sometimes it can be very powerful to slow down and really think like, what is creating this? Right? At the core, for example, at the core of being a great, husband or a great wife, right? You want to be loving, you want to be compassionate, you want to be forgiving, patient, right? And then you want to focus on your system. And it's the same in business, right? It's the same in business. There are certain traits that you want to bring, right? But we don't need to always go there. And it's often really powerful to just focus on these systems. Um, this works really well in teams as well, in relationships, right? So let's talk a little bit about something else that's really connected to this, right? And also, like, remember, most of us, like, not most of us, we all have systems, but we don't create it consciously. We're always creating, right? You want to look at the areas of your life where you're not getting the results that you want, and really ask yourself, like, what is the system that I have that's creating my current results, right? And the second thing is this is really important, right? Our dream is like a wish and an intention, and this kind of connected to another distinction: intentions versus commitments. You can have beautiful intentions, right? And it's good. It's good to set intentions and dream, right? But what we want to realize is that, without a commitment, things don't happen, right? And especially if something is not happening, sometimes I hear clients say like, well, I was really I'm committed to making, 100,000 in the next 90 days. I'm committed to making 500,000 in the next year. And you can't really be committed to that. And here's why: because an outcome, a target is not in your control, right? What you want to be committed to is the process, right? So we create a system, and then we have to create a commitment. And a commitment, very simply, like, to make that differentiation. An intention is a wish. I hope it happens, right? You're like dreaming and setting these goals, and it's good. But with a commitment, it's like you create a structure that guarantees the result. So, for example, if I have a flight, right? If I'm flying, so next week, I'm going to be flying to the Netherlands for my brother's wedding. If I'm flying, right, I'll make sure that I'm 2 hours ahead of the departure on the airport, 2 to 2.5 hours before that. I'll clear up my schedule. I'll make sure that, I have my passport, right? There's a structure. There's a lot of planning that goes before that, right? So with a commitment, it happens. If it doesn't happen, there hasn't been a clear commitment, right? And sometimes, of course, like we can look at like, hey, what's the system that that created this result for me? Sometimes we need to change the system. Yeah. Let me know if that makes sense. Like, how do I know it's a commitment? It will happen, and you can count on it, right? So if someone asks me, hey, can we have a session at 12? And I say yes, and there's commitment. It's in my calendar, right? There's probably a reminder, right? So I'll ensure that I'm on time there, right? And again, just, and we see this in the world of sports, right? Look, I'm not going to talk too much about targets and outcomes, but of course, you can do a lot on that side as well. It's important to daily connect to your targets, connect to your outcomes, visualize them. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Right? But then you want to obsess with the process, right? Be an active part in creating miracles for yourself, right? You can create anything you want in life. You can create anything you want in your relationships. You can create anything you want in your business, any amount of income that you want. You just need to get clear on like, what is my commitment and what is the system that I need to create those results? And if you don't know what system you need, for example, if you're making like 5,000 a month and you want to double your income and you don't know how to do that, right? That's when you maybe need to speak to someone that has already created that, like a coach or a mentor, right? Um, right. So this is really important, right? Important to understand that distinction. It's the same, like if I ask you, if I recommend a book to you, right? Like there's a great book, and one of my favorites is called Crazy Good by Steve Chandler. Now, I think it's around 200 pages, right? Now, if I ask you to read the book and say, can you finish the book in the next 10 days? You might say, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try, right? That's not a commitment. There's no system there. If you're really committed, you create a system. For example, you say, hey, I'm going to read 10 pages, 10 pages for the next 20 days. But if you have to finish in 10 days, well, you see, hey, there's 200 pages. I need to read 20 pages every single day for 10 days, right? You create a system that guarantees your completion, guarantees you get that result, right? This is, by the way, like I think it's such a powerful distinction. And if you're hearing this for the first time, you definitely want to, slow down and listen to this again. Really like think about how can I look at one of your goals and really think like, what is the commitment I have there? What's the system I have there? And you can also look at some goals that you have achieved in the past or haven't achieved, right? Second, you know, even if you're familiar with this, watch this again, listen to this again. That's when really like first time is for information, second time is for transformation, right? Make notes. Really think about how can I integrate this? How can I put this into practice? Right? The only way we go from theory to mastery is through practice, right? We practice, and that's also like through that practice to thinking about this, right? We raise our awareness around this, right? And that's what we want to do. We want to see this all as a game, because make it fun, see it as a game. You don't need to, there's no shame in not getting results. There's no shame in the system that you have, right? We all have to start somewhere. I I spent around like over $300,000 coaching, mentoring, business programs. Nobody really taught me how to have a good financial system, right? And I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with me because I just don't know how to manage my money. I don't know, why am I spending all this money? Why am I, right? Like I'm really good at making all this money. Well, why am I getting in the same financial situation? And that's not helpful, right? Like that lowers my self-esteem. So what I want to do is just look at like, what's the system I have and how can I improve that system? How can I create a system that gets me the results I want? Yeah. All right, cool. I would love to hear what your biggest takeaway is. What's your, one insight from this? Share that in the comments, in the chat. And I'd also love to hear, what is one small action you're going to take? Right? Think about your most important goal, for the next 90 days till the end of the year. What system do you have that will help you get that result, that will help you achieve that? Right? And as always, look, this is what I love doing, right? So if you are currently getting some good results, but you want to go to the next level, you want to double, triple your income, right? and you don't really know what system to create for that to happen, let's have a conversation. And let's have a conversation. And for me personally, like, I don't do sales calls, I don't do enrollment calls. I coach, and I love coaching. Right? I'll ask you a few questions, and then if it's a good fit, let's have a conversation together. Right? And I'll help you create a system for you to achieve that goal. Right? All right. If you have any questions, put it in the chat, put it in the comments, and I'll create a bit of time to answer those questions. If this has been useful for you, also share this with someone else. Share the video with someone else, share the information with someone else. That's another way for you to integrate this, right? By learning it, by watching it again, by listening to it again, and by teaching it, by sharing it with someone else. All right. Lots of love. I'm going to be back next week again. Thank you for being here. See you soon. Take care.